Hi, I'm Tobias Mostel. I'm teaching fabulous piano this semester at the Broad Auditorium on Tuesdays at 6 to 8. And the reason that I am here now, speaking first and out of turn, is that I'm in the middle of a class at the MA PhD Art History program over in Johnston. So I'm going to be rushing through this as we are all required to do. The class will be broken into two parts, those pianists who are alive and well, from whom we can expect to hear more. Does that light mean that I've spoken for 2 minutes? That's nothing? All right. Pianists from whom we can expect to hear more, and pianists whose recording days are over, if you catch my meaning. The oldest pianist we will be listening to was born in 1848. 20 years before our Civil War. The youngest pianist we'll be listening to was born in 1994. So I think that we will have plenty of stuff to look at, number one, and we'll have all kinds of stuff to listen to. We'll be listening to music almost entirely classical by Liszt, Rachmaninoff, Paganini, Brahms, Scarlatti, Beethoven, Chopin, the usual bunch, the usual suspects, and I hope to share my love for this with you, and that you will continue to love classical music when I'm done. Thank you.
What brought you here today? I have the answer. Your brain, right? Think about it. The motivation to come here, your brain. The motor program to get you here, your brain. The sensory processes that guided you here, your brain. And everything you're learning today, your brain. And so we all know that the brain does all these kinds of things. But what's not well known is just how does the brain do all that. And that's really the goal of our course. And so I'm Rick Hyson. I'm director of the program in neuroscience here at FSU. And we're offering a course called Brain and Behavior. It's being offered at 9 o'clock at the Pepper Center here on Mondays. We've offered this course once before, and this version is going to be very similar to the last version. What we do is team up on you. We get a bunch of graduate students who come in to teach what they love about how the brain controls everything you do. All we are, everything we know is just electrical signals generated by the brain. And so what they've developed is a series of presentations. They have hands-on experience, kinds of learning experiences for you, lots of demonstrations. You start by looking at anatomy, looking at real brains. We talk about how the brain cells communicate with each other and how they control both your normal functions and what goes wrong with brain functions, such as in neurodegenerative diseases, for instance. And so it's a broad survey of everything about what the brain does and how it does it. And so I hope to see you there on Mondays.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Christopher Hecox, and I'm the Executive Director of 7 Days of Opening Nights, the Performing Arts Series here at Florida State University. And I'm teaching a new class called The Aesthetics of Performing Arts Presenting. It's going to be at the Pepper Center on Mondays, room 214, from 9 to 11. And so, quick survey, how many people here have been to a 7 Days of Opening Nights performance? Fantastic. So, one of the questions that I get being the director is, how do you pick the artists? What is good music? What is good dance? How do you know it's good dance? How do you know it's good theater? So I decided to teach this class so that people can get an understanding from the business side of how we pick artists, why we pick certain artists, and then what we're going to do is actually bring in some of these guest artists that are here during the spring and have them talk to you about how they develop their programming and so forth. So we're going to keep that a secret until you sign up for the class, but I will announce one of the individuals that will be coming, it'll be the third class, is Jalwe Willa-Jo Zolar, who is the founding director and artistic director of Urban Bushwoman, who we're bringing here to perform. She's also a Lawton Distinguished Professor here at Florida State University, so we're really excited about that. So thanks a lot, and I hope you guys will take the class. Thanks.
I'm Susan Yelton, and no, I'm not teaching this semester. I am the chair of the curriculum committee known as the subject area team. And I'd really, this afternoon I'll be presenting for four of the faculty who cannot be here for a variety of different reasons. But before I do, I want to recognize the team. Great bunch of OLLI volunteers who worked very hard starting last August. And some are here and some aren't. Charles Conaway, Karen Bickley, Wade Birch, Carol Bewley, and Beverly Frick worked hard to put together what is now the most classes we've really had since we've been in OLLI. The first class I'd like to present is the one that takes place Monday, so if you look on your sheets, Monday from 9 to 11 o'clock in the Sandals building, and it's called Architectural Language from Stonehenge to Shanghai. This class is being taught by Dr. Arlene Pabon, and she is internationally known for her expertise, particularly in historic preservation. Her position as faculty at FAMU is a professor and associate dean. At this time, she's on her way back from China. The class she'll be teaching will be broken into 6 different lessons. When she talks about architecture, she talks about it as the art it's actually humanity's most common language through the ages. It's not just about function, but it's about the highest ideals imagined by humans and a message that carried from generation to generation. The class will be divided in 6 sessions, the first one being early times, which she calls a fixed place under the sky, followed by the unknown, which is the buildings of life, death, and gods. That's periods of Egypt, etc. On to the image of man, a humanistic approach to architecture, classical Greeks, Romans, then to the true God, Christian, Muslim, and Jewish architecture, and then the rebirth of classical ideals, the Renaissance, and ending with a brave new world, modernity and architecture as we know it today. Let me see, the second one is move you now to Wednesday. Let me move you to Wednesday, and there are 3 on Wednesday. I think many of you know Dr. Ruth Akers. She's been with us. This will be the 3rd time she'll be teaching for us a class on music, and it's always great fun. We get a very different perspective on music through Ruth's lens. She's faculty in the Department of Music here at FSU and also very, very active and important to the Tallahassee Symphony Orchestra. Her class is entitled, Wherefore Art Thou, Romeo, in keeping with the February theme of Valentine's Day. Her class will be taught Wednesday from 9 to 11 a.m. in the Broad Auditorium, which is at the Pepper Center. The class will focus on the music of Tchaikovsky, Berlioz, Prokofiev, Delius, and a few others who have appropriated Romeo and Juliet for their own purposes. As Ruth suggested, this seemingly ageless love story appears in many musical genres, from ballet to opera to symphonic poems to Broadway. And she wants to know, is anyone interested in a little tragic romance this term? I think any of you who've ever had Ruth will know you'll love the class. The second one on Wednesday is Wednesday from 11:30 to 1:30, again in the Sandals building. The Sandals building is right across the street from the Pepper Center, so it's just real easy to go back and forth for us. And actually you can do your coffee breaks. It's very easy even to do coffee breaks to get coffee and pepper if you're in Sandals. So this one is Wednesday, 11:30 to 1:30, Sandals building, room 339. It's diet and nutrition for healthy aging. It's being taught by Sarah Johnson, who's a professor in the College of Human Science. I think all of us, you know, if you're like me at least, you're always worried about those extra pounds, or did I get enough exercise today, or the wrinkles are coming on, or whatever. But Sarah's going to help us look at, I think, some graceful aging through our diets. She'll describe some of the physiological changes to the body that may occur as a result of our aging process. I think we all know about that. The discussion of nutrient needs of older adults as a result of these changes, and strategies to prevent certain diseases. This is the first time Sarah will be teaching for us, and I think it'll be a good complement to our curriculum. And the last one, Ruth, am I keeping up in the time? I'm doing good? All right. The last one is Wednesday, 11:30 to 1:30. This one will be taught in the Pepper Center, room 214, and it's entitled Seeing the Forest and the Trees. It's being taught by Haven Cook, who has been with the U.S. Forest Service for 30 years and is currently completing her PhD in urban planning at FSU. I'd like to read what she sent to me because I think this represents sort of her teaching style and give you a good sense of the class. First of all, she wants to know, she said, I'd like to see a show of hands. How many of you once thought about being a forest ranger? Any forest rangers out there? She said, come on, let's see them. I know there are more than those few. Being a forest ranger seems like one of those jobs full of adventure and excitement, thanks in part to a 1960 television show featuring Lassie and her owner, a forest ranger named Corey Stewart. It's a job, it made a job in the great outdoors seem glamorous and even heroic. She said, now for the reality. And she's been there 30 years. It's a job where you have to juggle multiple competing uses, where you have 3.1 million bosses, and where you have to answer directly to Congress. Most Americans understand very little about the agency and why we do the things we do. You might think we manage the forests in the way we think they ought to be managed, but here's our little secret. The way we manage the national forest is a direct expression of Congress's desires. This class will give you an idea of how many agencies and forest policies developed over time, how they're developed over time, and why Congress watches the agencies so closely. But it will also talk about trees, how they are grown, managed, and how the Forest Service manages public good like wildlife, water, range, recreation, historical resources, and wilderness to meet the demands of a diverse and often divided public. You'll finish this class with a better understanding of how the philosophy of ecosystem management can help us address the public's needs in the future to have vital and healthy forests. Haven is, in talking to Haven about the class, we might be taking a field trip. It's not sure that will be included, but because we live with a national forest around us, there might be a real opportunity for us to kind of put into a visual experience something that we're learning in the classroom. Thank you.
This down a little bit. Okay. Hi, my name is Heather Whitaker, and I'm going to be teaching the class Developing Your Skills as a Memoir or Fiction Writer. I am an editor and writing coach. I've worked with many dozens of authors now, both locally and also across the country, from newbies to people who've published like 20 books. And so I love writing. I love fiction. I think it's a lot of fun. And I'm going to guess that if I was to ask you guys, I'll go ahead and ask, how many of you here have ever felt like you had a story that you wanted to write, whether it was fiction or whether it was based on something that happened in your own life? Let me see. I think almost everybody has at some point. And at some point, unfortunately, many of us have an experience where someone says, no, you don't know enough about writing, or you may have been in a critique group where the emphasis was on critique. And so what this is this is a class where we're going to be learning, each week we'll be learning 1 to 2 topics on the craft of writing. And it's not going to just be me lecturing, it's more like a workshop. So you'll have the chance to participate in like class discussions, and then we'll all have a chance to actually put that new knowledge to use right there while it's still fresh. And so this is going to be a challenging class because everybody's going to be challenged to learn something new about writing and to increase their writing skills. It's also going to be a very interactive class. You're going to be there to like actually, you know, get your brain actually working on writing. But last and most important, it's going to be a supportive class. It's not going to be that critique group that you attended where your ideas got shot down. This is going to be the place where we're going to be supporting each other, because when you feel good about yourself, when you're feeling comfortable, that's when you learn best. So we're definitely going to have a lot of fun. It's going to meet in the Claude Pepper Center in the Lampman Conference Room, Mondays from 11:30 to 1:30. That is during lunch, so you are welcome to bring lunch with you. We'll be able to eat in that room. Thank you.
Hello. Let me put up my props. I'm excited to share my third OLLI course with you, Socrates in Love. The subtitle is Philosophy for a Passionate Heart. And I think we all share a passionate heart. We start with the Greeks, and they have different categories of love. One is eros, passionate love. One is philia, brotherly love. And one is, among others, agape, the unconditional spiritual love. And we're going to look at how in the next 2,500 years, the various philosophers, artists, musicians, composers, poets have expressed various kinds of love, going chronologically. We'll also look at the context. For example, we'll understand why Augustus banished Ovid for writing The Art of Love. He banished him from the Roman Empire because it was considered immoral. We'll see how Jesus, who was born as a subject in the Roman Empire, focused on love being greater than any of the other commandments that existed in that world. We're also going to look at classical love and look at how Shakespeare expresses things and counts the ways of love, the poets that come from that time period. But we'll also look at the dark side of love in the Romantic period, where often unrequited love leads to suicide. We're looking maybe Anna Karenina and other works from that time period, and the poets, and how their lives really influenced their artistic expression, and whether society was ready to accept and to embrace their message, or whether they were rejected by society, because often the artist was misunderstood, like Van Gogh and other musicians that we're going to look at. We're also looking at, even though Socrates said, if you, by all means, he said, get married. If you get a good wife, you'll be happy. If you get a bad wife, you'll become a philosopher. And so we're going to see how that works out. But I want to, and Freud, who influenced the 20th century art and artistic expression, the Frida Kahlo, the tragic life, she said that she had two major accidents in her life: the trolley accident, which caused her lifelong pain, and her marriage to Diego. And she said her marriage to Diego was much worse then. But I want to leave with a positive note, and that is a quote by Elizabeth Browning: love doesn't make the world go round, but it does make the trip worthwhile. So I look forward to sharing love with you, the platonic kind. And the TCC campus, Wednesdays from 2 to 4, parking is going to be accessible to you because they know you're OLLI people. So I love you and thank you.
Buenas tardes. ¿Cómo están ustedes? Todos hablan español. Sí. Yo me llamo Laura Morris. Actually, my alias is Laura Maria Teresa Graciela Gonzalez Santa Maria Morris. Because I've been married to my gringo for 47 years, back there somewhere. Anyway, I am teaching 2 classes. My first class is actually for beginners. I've been told that everyone needs to have Spanish in Florida, and so we need people to learn the language. So we need people who don't know any Spanish. This class is for people who either spent 4 years in their high school and don't know how to say anything, forgot everything they ever learned, and want to start from scratch. Okay? They want to go past OLLI. They want to be able to converse. And that's the most important thing about a class. I don't do a lot of conjugations and stuff like we used in school. Okay? We do verbs and idioms and nouns and all that, but we do it in a conversational kind of way. We do activities. We do interactive things. We do a lot of conversation. And I know, as Mr. Ripley is famed for saying, believe it or not, in 12 hours you'll be able to speak, write, read, and translate. It's true. Okay. And it's just so fun because when you can actually speak another language, you're into another world, which makes it so exciting. So the whole idea of the class is that you're going to be in another country. So in the other country, you have to learn how to get your point across. So maybe you don't know the word for that, but you know another word. And I teach my students to go around the box, not just outside the box, but around the box. And if you were in another country and you had to say something, you would have to get the point across. So the class actually is taught at Westminster Oaks from 11:30 to 1:30 on Thursdays. So everybody's got that down on their schedule. And the most important thing is people tell me, oh, well, I took it, but, I really didn't learn anything, and they got sort of disappointed. So the whole idea is don't get discouraged. We're going to be speaking a lot and encouraging people to speak with one another outside of class and do little practice sessions. And I see some of my friends who encourage me to do the beginning class. Hey, Mary. So it's just going to be a real interesting class. And you will not believe how much you can actually learn in 12 hours. Okay, we're doing 2 hours a week, and you can practice in between. And the whole idea is I have different kinds of interactive activities that you've never had in high school before. Okay, we'll sit at different tables and work with different groups, and it's a very full 2 hours. By the time that you leave there each week, you'll say, I can do this. Why did I think I couldn't speak another language? Why did I think that I was not good at languages? Okay, you will find out that you can, and you can do it. So it's very exciting. Then I have another class, which is taught here at the Pepper Center. It'll be on Mondays from 11:30 to 1:30. And that class is for people who have a good working knowledge of Spanish. Because I've had some people that either had background in their homes or have lived in other countries, but they haven't had a chance to practice it. Okay? And so in this group, we're actually going to move on to past tense and conditional and commands and all those fun things, but in a really exciting way, a lot of conversation. I'm going to bring some other people in to converse with us so that you can understand what you're hearing. And the most important thing, can you say what you want to say? And that does take a little skill practice, but it's easily done. A lot of times you think, well, there was a famous one that happened in one class when the student wanted to say, I'm going to my family reunion. But of course, she didn't know the word for reunion. So I said, well, what do you do at a reunion? Well, our family gets together. Do you know how to say the family gets together? Oh, yeah. Well, then that's what you say. I'm going to a place where my family gets together. That's called thinking around the box, outside the box. You can get the point across. It's very easily done. So then we do a lot of conversation. So we have had some people who came into the last class that we had that really didn't have any knowledge of Spanish, and they were sort of frustrated. So for this class, it's important, this intermediate class, that you do have some working knowledge. Not a whole lot. You don't have to be fluent. You don't have to have had 16 years of Spanish or lived in Peru for 40 years. The whole idea is that you do have some working knowledge that you understand, because we will be translating and reading and writing and conversing, and you want to be able to get the most benefit out of the class. Okay, so for the people who understood hola, that's good. But if you didn't understand, vamos a tener un buen tiempo en la clase los lunes, if you didn't quite get all of that, maybe the intermediate class probably is not for you. Did the rest of my students out there get that? Yeah, you can translate? Yes. Okay. So that's the fun thing they're going to do, because when you can actually, if people say, do you speak Spanish? And you say, sí, then you can prove that. Hasta luego.
Hello, I'm Vincent Michelson, and I'm also teaching a class about love. It's a class about love of money, love of power. It's the evolution of organized crime. The class meets Mondays 2 to 4 in the Broad Auditorium at the Pepper Center. And we're going to begin with just trying to define what is organized crime, because a lot of people think just because a crime is slightly complicated or organized, it's organized crime, but that's not necessarily the case. Then we'll make our way through Prohibition, all the way up into the RICO Acts of roughly around 1980. The class is taught from a historical standpoint with a narrative approach to history, just trying to tell the story of, some of it's the rags to riches American story. So we will discuss class, race, ethnicity, as well as violence, sex, popular culture, all the fun stuff. Final thing I'll say is this is the class that actually made me want to get into history. I believe that history was predominantly about clocks and kings and Congress, and all of a sudden I found myself saying, this is not the history I thought it was. Then I changed my major, took a whole bunch of other history classes, and that's the way I try to approach this class as well as all of my history classes. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Benjamin Lawson, adjunct professor here at the FSU English Department. My class meets, my OLLI class meets at 2 p.m. at the Pepper Center, room 214, I think, on Mondays. In the Caribbean shores of American writers, we embark with a survey of the American tradition of fiction, nonfiction, poetry, drama, about the sea, life at sea, and sometimes exotic places. Then more specifically, we explore literature about the Caribbean as subject, as setting, as cultural context. Some of those writers will be from the Caribbean and have important connections to the U.S. and write in English. Finally, we sail towards home with a discussion of Ernest Hemingway's tales about the Florida Keys, Bermuda, the Bahamas rather, and Cuba. Other authors emphasized include Herman Melville, Mark Twain, Claude McKay, Eugene O'Neill, for example. Along the way, we'll have plenty of PowerPoint images. By the way, if you saw the intimidating list of books, that's called suggested reading. So don't panic. I have to tell you, I've taught in Finland, the Netherlands, the UK. I've even been a guest sort of presenter on cruise ships. But this is my very first OLLI class, so I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amy Combs, and I am here today representing Tallahassee Community College. I am the IT coordinator at the Division of Workforce Development, and we have partnered with OLLI to hold a class in on our campus in one of our computer labs in workforce development. And actually, I will not be the instructor of that class. I'm actually standing in for one of our instructors today, Miss Mary Catherine Long, who you will see on your paper. But unfortunately, Mary Catherine came down with the flu, and so she called me last week and asked me to come out, and of course I was happy to do that. As I mentioned, we will hold this course. It will be on Mondays from 2 to 4, and it will be held in our workforce building on the main campus, and that will be in room 219 in our computer lab. The course that we're going to be teaching is going to be called Computer Basics Extravaganza. And this course is basically going to provide a very broad overview of several aspects of using the computer. First, you will learn to navigate Windows, and you'll also learn how to manage all of those files that you create as you use the computer. You will also be introduced and learn some basics in Microsoft Word, which is word processing, Microsoft Excel, which is spreadsheets, Microsoft PowerPoint, which, as you probably are aware, is presentations. And then we'll also give you a good broad look into Outlook, which is an email application, and we will teach you how to use that. Probably a lot of you have email in here already, but maybe a few of you don't, so that can be important. And finally, probably the funnest part of the course will be at the end, where you can bring in your photos, and we're going to learn what to do with all those digital photos you've got stored, where to put them, what to do with them, and also even how to share them. So I think this is going to be a great opportunity for everyone to come out. If you don't have these kinds of skills, we hope you'll take advantage of it. I also wanted to mention that I've just been thrilled with all the things that you guys are offering, and we offer more academic things out at TCC, but I have left some brochures back on the information table, so if you're interested in any kind of other courses, feel free to pick one of those up and let us know. Thanks a lot.
Hello, my name is Woody Carlson. I'm the Charles Nam Professor in Sociology of Population at Florida State. Do you know anyone born between 1929 and 1945 during the Great Depression and World War II? This generation was born between the greatest generation and the baby boom, but is separate and different from these other generations in many important ways. In my 2008 book, I call this generation the lucky few, because they were the first American generation. Actually, they have fewer people than the generation before them. Although the lucky few seem to have slipped between the cracks of history, overshadowed by the greatest generation before them and the baby boom that followed them, they experienced a high tide in American history in many ways. We'll spend our 6 weekly meetings exploring childhood, schooling, marriage and careers, and retirement and old age for this lucky few generation, comparing them as we go to all the other generations, including the greatest generation, the baby boom, Generation X, and the others who made up the American population during the 20th century. This course on the lucky few appears at the bottom of the 5th page of your spring course list, the 5th entry under History. We'll meet every Tuesday morning from 9:30 to 11:30 in the Pepper Center, so this is a good course to take if you also want to enjoy the special Tuesday noon lecture series of distinguished speakers, which comes right after our course. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Matt Del Campo. My course is called American Popular Music Since the Late 1960s, subtitled From the Beatles to Michael Bublé. We are going to meet in the Pepper Center on Tuesday mornings as well, from 9:30 to 11:30. How many people like the Beatles or Michael Bublé? Tim, I know you like some of these. I see you out there. How about some people in between, like Ray Charles or James Brown or Michael Jackson, Miley Cyrus? Okay, well, the point is, no matter what we talk about, we will have more than enough people to go through. And I can cater this to my audience. And this is my 3rd time teaching a course for OLLI, all been sort of around popular music in different time periods. So I'm able to cater the same subject matter, although focusing on bands that are artists or singers that people might actually go home and want to listen to as well. So I promise not to spend much time or any time at all on hardcore punk, for example. But knowing that these things exist and what else is happening around them is probably a cool thing too. If you're interested in learning with me, I appreciate all my time that I've had teaching here at OLLI, and I'm excited to learn again with you this semester. So hope to see many of you. Thanks. Bye.
Good afternoon. My name's Chris Livaday, and I'm filling in for our technology and genealogy instructor, Dina Ramsey, who is either in Pasadena or on her way back, maybe even using a plane rather than Cloud 9, because I'm sure she had a wonderful time. I've taken 4 of Dina's classes. I took genealogy, 2 of those, and I took her iPad and her iPhone class, so I feel qualified to let you know that she is just the person to get you started in any of those subjects. She holds a degree in computer programming and processes and has 19 years experience as a classroom instructor and in courseware development. She's a certified technical trainer, and she maintains private contracts throughout the state with both the corporate and private sector. She also works with county libraries, and she's presented at local and state technology conferences. If you got a new iPad from Santa or from your children, consider the class on Tuesday from 9:30 to 11:30 at the Pepper Center and get iPad savvy in 6 weeks. This class will help you understand everything from how to adjust and personalize your own settings, various features, how to sync with iTunes and the mysterious cloud, as well as tips and tricks to improve your proficiency. Bring your iPad with you, your USB dock connector charger, along with your Apple ID and your password, and you're on your way. The class has the added benefit of getting you in the right place for our OLLI noon lecture, which is offered on Tuesday. If Tuesday doesn't work for you, How to Get iPad Savvy in 6 Weeks is also offered on Thursday from 9 to 11 at Westminster Oaks. You can also come to Tuesday's noon lecture and be ready for Dina's Genealogy Geek Research Lab from 1:30 to 3:30. The Genealogy Geek class is also available on Wednesdays at the Pepper Center from 9 to 11. You'll learn how to research your roots using online resources and create an online toolkit of the sites that are most helpful for your particular research. You will also have a field trip to the state archives, and to participate you have to be Windows and Internet basically proficient. You will need to sign up early because the maximum class size is 15 students. If you have a new digital camera and you need help getting started, or you want to learn more about a digital camera that you've had for a while and haven't quite gotten used to using, feel free to join Dina on Wednesday from 11:30 to 1:30 for her comprehensive digital photography class at the Pepper Center. This class, which is also limited to 15, in case you haven't figured out, there's only 15 workstations at the Pepper Center. It will cover photography terminology, help you master downloading your pictures to the computer and how to organize them once you do that, and will also show you how to use a free online photo editing software program. To participate in this class, you also need to have basic understanding of Windows and the Internet. Be sure to bring your digital camera, a USB cord, and a flash drive so that you can participate fully in the class. Mobility is required because students will be walking around campus and taking practice photos. So much to do, so little time. Although these classes are smaller than most, they give you real hands-on experience, and Dina provides handouts that you can refer to later for tips and suggestions. Class registration starts at 10 a.m. on Thursday, and they do fill up fast. OLLI does its best to keep its members up to date on the latest in technology, so rest assured if you don't get in this term, there'll be more offered in the fall. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Rick Swain. I'm teaching the course on American baseball history, or rather leading the course would be a better way to say it. We'll meet Tuesday from 1:30 to 3:30 at the Pepper Center Auditorium, the broad auditorium, I think it is. I'm a retired CPA. Don't hold that against me. I've authored 3 nonfiction books on baseball history in general, with the 4th at the publisher, and I'm a member of the Society for American Baseball Research, which for $55 you can join too. This is the second time this class has been offered. I plan to conduct it the same manner, basically informal with a lot of class participation, and maybe even some friendly arguments if I can get those started. The presentations will be roughly in chronological order, which from the evolution of the game around the Civil War to up to the present time. And we'll have try to keep in mind how baseball was impacted by what was going on around it and how it impacted those things that were happening. For instance, during World War II and the Great Depression, the integration era, all of those had quite an effect. Last year, when I made this presentation, I made what some people considered a uncomplimentary remark about the New York Yankees. And so the first course, about half the class showed up in Yankee paraphernalia. Some went a little too far, John. But I just want to assure you that Yankee fans are welcome, and just like real people. So we hope to have a lot of fun there. Thanks.
Hi. I'd like to start with a few verses from Ars Poetica by the 20th century poet Archibald MacLeish, who won 3 Pulitzer Prizes and was Assistant Secretary of State for Cultural Affairs. Quite an accomplishment. A poem should be equal to, not true. For all the history of grief, an empty doorway and a maple leaf. For love, the leaning grasses and 2 lights above the sea. A poem should not mean, but be. Hi, I'm Laura Newton, and I'll be leading a poetry workshop called What Makes a Poem a Poem. And this class is dedicated to Mort, who in my last poetry workshop asked me at the beginning of class and at the end of class every week, what makes a poem a poem? Why isn't this a poem? Why isn't this a poem? So, and I would answer earnestly, and with a twinkle in his eye, he'd say, yeah, but what makes a poem a poem? So this class is called What Makes a Poem, an exploration in reading and writing contemporary poetry. It'll meet from 1:30 to 3:30 on Tuesdays in room 214 in the Pepper Center. We will write poetry, read poetry, share poetry, and try to discover for ourselves through invention exercises and playing with language what makes a poem a poem. And I'd like to leave you with a few lines from Ruth Foreman, who's a contemporary poet who lives in Washington, D.C. and has published 3 books. And this is called Poetry Should Ride the Bus. This is not the entire poem, but a few stanzas. Poetry should dress in fine plum linen suits and not be so educated that it don't stop in every now and then to sit on the porch and talk about the comings and goings of the world. Poetry should ride the bus in a fat woman's Safeway bag between the greens and chicken wings to be served for Tuesday dinner. Poetry should drop by a sweet potato pie, ask about the grandchildren, and sit through a whole photo album on an orange plastic covered lazy boy with no place to go. So come write poetry with us. We'll have a lot of fun. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Pat Johnson, and I'll be leading the 2 sections of the Great Decisions class, one of which will meet on Tuesdays at the Pepper Center, 1:30 to 3:30. That's usually in the museum with Claude Pepper looking on. The other will meet at Westminster Oaks on Wednesday mornings from 9 to 11. The United States is a great world power. Yet we as a people disagree mightily as to how our nation should express that power, especially with situations such as Iran's nuclear ambitions, the Israeli-Palestinian impasse, China's expanding influence both in East Asia and in Africa, and what sort of military do we really need at this point in time? A very interesting discussion about that. So if you are interested in learning more about the issues I've mentioned, plus several others we'll take up, or in expressing your own viewpoints and listening to opposing viewpoints, this could be a class for you. As resource material, we will use the Great Decisions briefing papers that come out every year. We'll use the 2014 papers that have just been available in the last couple of weeks, and will be guided in part by an idea I've heard expressed by Walter Cronkite in the past. In a democracy, agreement is not essential, but participation is. Join us.
Hello, my name is Claire Mitchell, and I am teaching a class called Grow Life, and it's going to be at Westminster Oaks on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. So I am the owner of 10 Speed Greens Urban Farm. I'm wearing my shirt. And I'm a farmer, and you might think, well, she doesn't really look like a farmer, but I've been growing food for 5 or 6 years now. I've been a business owner for the past year, and I have certainly learned a lot about local food, and I am ready to teach you about it. So we're going to go through a few things in this class. We're going to actually learn how to grow food. We're going to build a raised bed garden out at Westminster. We're going to fill it with compost, and we're going to plant it. And you will be surprised at the end of 6 weeks how much food you can grow in the spring. The sun is out for a long time. We're going to plant a bunch of salads that grow really fast, and we're going to harvest it at the end of that. But this class is called Grow Life. So we're not just going to grow food. We're going to learn how to incorporate organic, local, seasonal food into all aspects of your life. So I have been working on my parents for a very long time, and they still don't know how to eat seasonally. And I'm realizing that this is a big switch of instead of going to the grocery store and thinking, well, I want to make asparagus tonight, and then realizing, wait a second, asparagus doesn't grow here. I want to make summer squash. Well, here it is, it's freezing outside, and there's certainly no squash growing here right now. So we're going to learn, who are your farmers? What's in season right now? How do you recognize what's in season? Where do you buy that local seasonal organic food that we keep hearing all about? And we're also going to learn how to cook it, because that's really the most important part. You can know all about growing it, you can know all about how to buy it, but if you don't know how to cook it, then what's the point? So we'll be also watching a film, and we'll also be taking a field trip to 10 Speed Green so you can see a working farm in action. And then my favorite part, we're going to have a seasonal local potluck at the end, which is always nice, so everyone can share the food that they have grown at home, the food that they purchased from their local farmers, and show everybody their great cooking skills. So it should be a lot of fun, so we'll see you on Tuesdays. Thanks.
I'm Glenn Doran. I'm teaching a class called Bones, Tales of the Dead. Tuesday night, 6 to 8. Out at the Wendover Lab on West Tennessee as part of the anthropology department. I'm in the anthropology department. And I would make note that if Richard's brains, without the skeletal system, he wouldn't have gotten here, okay? Give it about 1,000 years, and I'm still interested in him because he's got a skeletal system. But if that brain gets you in trouble with Vinny's people, they're going to bury you in Mitchell's garden. So I'm part archaeologist because we dig materials like that up, and we span the entire range of time. This was the latest science magazine about graveyards. And so we'll look at how you analyze human skeletal material, what kinds of information you can get from it, and how can I look at this and tell you that I think this is about a 43-year-old male. And he's only 1,000 years old. So that's not very old from our standpoint. Skeletal material will, in fact, in many cases last for literally millions of years, and really the techniques of the analysis are very similar. And like I said, Vinny's people sometimes come across and wind up in my lab, and we work with law enforcement agencies, and sometime during this 6 weeks it wouldn't be surprising if somebody from a law enforcement agency sends me a photo and says, is this human or not? And quite frequently, with just a matter of a few seconds looking at the photo, we can say, yes, you do in fact have a law enforcement issue, or no, it's a dog, it's a bear, it's a cat, it's not human, you don't have to worry about it. So if you're interested in bones and what they can tell you, see you on Tuesday night.
I'm Ray Bellamy. I've been in medical practice in Tallahassee since 1974, teach part-time at the College of Medicine, share operating experience just assisting my son these days. I'm offering a course on sustainability, not growth, which will be on Wednesdays from 9 to 11. It'll be taught as an interactive experience. It will address overpopulation, climate change, resource depletion, food, water scarcity, and the unfortunate situation that we have with government not functioning in a way to solve these problems. So this will be interactive, audience participation. Many of you have traveled extensively and can offer observations from around the world, which will aid our discussion. We did this last year. Looking forward to this year.
Good afternoon. I am Dr. Maxine Montgomery. This is my 26th year on the faculty in the English department and my first time teaching a course with OLLI. So I'm excited about the possibility of seeing as many of you as possible in my class. My course is entitled Anything Dead Coming Back to Life Hurts: Contemporary Figurations of Haunting in the Fiction of Toni Morrison. This term, what we'll do is read and discuss selected novels by the Nobel and Pulitzer Prize winning novelist Toni Morrison, with a view to understanding the close relationship between her evolving canon and aspects of the spiritual presence out of which Morrison's writing evolves. And we'll be focusing attention on symbolic representations of things like haunted houses, ghosts, prophetic dreams, ancestral spirits, and what's known in an African cosmology as the living dead. In short, we'll be taking a look at representations of a lost, fragmented past that, for one reason or another, refuses to die. Now, because of time constraints, we won't have enough time to take a look at all 10 of Morrison's novels. So what we'll do is read the 3 novels by Toni Morrison that, taken together, reveal nuances of her concern with spirituality. We'll begin with a focus on Morrison's Pulitzer Prize-winning novel, Beloved, which was published in 1987, and it's also regarded as being the best work of fiction in the last 25 years. From there, we'll take a look at A Mercy, and then finally, we'll take a look at Toni Morrison's Home. The underlying rationale for the course has to do with my assertion that ghosts in Morrison's fiction are different from what we see in canonical texts by American authors like William Faulkner, Edgar Allan Poe, and Nathaniel Hawthorne. In those texts, ghosts tend to serve a very private function. In Toni Morrison's canon, on the other hand, ghosts serve as what I call cultural context, constructs, in that they reveal something about the in-betweenness associated with the human condition, what it means to live in between societies, in between spaces, and in between worlds. The course meets on Wednesdays from 9 until 11 in 339 Sandals Building, and I look forward to seeing as many of you as possible in that class. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rod Anderson. My course is Path to War, 1919-1941, exploring the origins of World War II. Class meets at 11:30 on Wednesdays at the Pepper Center in the Broad Auditorium. This is the 3rd course in my trilogy of World War II. Of course, most trilogies don't end at the beginning, okay, but that's what I'm doing here. But then, when I began teaching only 3 years ago, I didn't know that I would like it as much as I do. I mean, I taught 41 years at Florida State, but at OLLI, everybody wants to be in the class if they're there, and boy, I love that. All right. My approach is similar to John Keegan's book, The Second World War, which if you've had my other 2 classes, you will know that I like very much. His approach is to search out, quote, how World War II was made possible. And that's how I will teach the course. So I'll begin in 1919, and I will march you through the 20s and the 30s. The first topic is the world in 1919, how the war to end all wars made World War II more likely. And then we shall follow the events of the 1920s as the U.S. retreats into isolationism and as radical movements to the left and right destabilize European politics. And just when the bad times that followed World War I seemed to end, the Great Depression hits with a vengeance. But you think that World War II is only a child of the Depression? Well, we'll see. I will devote a good bit of time to the coming to power of the fascist Third Reich in Germany and the slippery slide towards war in Europe in the 1930s. I will devote an entire class period to Japan and the roots of war in the Pacific. And finally, I will examine the nature of World War II, because if the politics of that war seem vaguely familiar, the nature of the war was unprecedented. And I will follow and examine the economic and technological transformations that helped make World War II the most destructive in modern history. To do that, we really have to go back to the 19th century and follow the main threads of those developments through to the war itself. As you know, if you have my classes, after each class, I will provide a complete digital copy of the lecture with citations and bibliography, which, thank goodness, I will not give you during the lecture itself. And I'll be around after this if anybody has any questions. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Josephine Yu, and I'm so happy to be here. I received my PhD in English and Creative Writing in 2012 here at FSU, and I'm now a member of the faculty at Kaiser University. And I'll be teaching the OLLI class titled Passion Through the Ages and Between the Pages, Feminist Theory in Romance Novels, which will meet on Wednesdays from 2 to 4 at Westminster Oaks. My love of romance novels has been my dirty little secret as an academic, but in 2005, when the New York Times best-selling romance novelist Eloisa James revealed that her real name is Mary Bly and she is a Shakespeare scholar and professor at Fordham University, I decided I wouldn't be ashamed or embarrassed to love romance novels. Well, maybe a little embarrassed. But I'm not alone in this passion. Romance is the most popular and best-selling of all genres, with an estimated 1.3 billion in sales, which is triple literary fiction. And so in this class, which I'll lead as a discussion with lots of participation, we'll try to figure out why so many people love romance novels and why so many others, including my mother, consider them to be trash or junk or women's porn. So I'll ask participants to read Jane Eyre and a romance novel of your choice, and I'll provide selections from critical texts and handouts. And our discussion will range from ancient beliefs about female anatomy to the courtly love tradition to bodice rippers to feminist critiques as we trace the origins of contemporary ideas of romance. And we'll debate whether these books keep women mired in gender stereotypes or allow a healthy expression of women's sexuality and power. So I hope you'll join me on Wednesdays from 2 to 4 for some great discussions, maybe some giggles, and I hope that some men will enroll too. You know, you can download books on your phone, on a tablet, and no one has to know you're reading them. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Atkins, and my class is Dancing in the Movies, Cultural Identity in Global Dance Films. We'll be meeting at Westminster Oaks on Thursdays from 11:30 until 1:30. And the course really examines global dance cultures as they're represented on film. Essentially, it's a very interesting window into understanding the social and political and aesthetic identities from around the world and worldviews that people generate through movement, through their bodies, not only in scripted dance, but also in their everyday motions and bodily actions. Of course, this reaches into very interesting territory of rich discussions surrounding race and gender, class, ethnicity, and also ritual. Essentially, we'll look at the context that shape and are reflected in various dance practices around the world, and we'll begin with a survey of basic world dance terminology and ideas. So you don't have to have any experience with dance to come and join us. Really, a love of film is totally awesome to get this class started. So we'll begin by looking at case studies, learning about flamenco through Carlos Sora's beautiful film, Carmen. We'll also look at wushu kung fu, which is a lot like romantic ballet, believe it or not. And we'll look at that in Jet Li's Hero. We'll move on to adaptations of Jane Austen's films, or her novels and filmic adaptations by looking at English country dancing. We'll also look at sensational Bollywood, and we'll end with parkour, which is an athletic, obstacle, improvisational kind of a sort that originated in the Parisian suburbs. So I hope to see you and watch some amazing films. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Mary Catherine May, but that's a mouthful for people from the South, so you may call me Mary May. I'll answer to either one. I'm really excited to be invited to teach this course about the history of Tallahassee in the Gilded Age. I moved here in 1967 and always wanted to know more about the early days in Tallahassee. So in 2000, after I retired from the classroom, I plunged into the abyss of research. Some of you know what that means. And eventually wrote a couple of books. One was about black political leaders in Tallahassee and Leon County from 1865 until it turned out 2008. And a second one, which is entitled Little City Amid the Hilltops, Tallahassee in the Gilded Age. These books, of course, are the basis for the course I would like to offer. So in academic terms, this is a survey of the history of Tallahassee from the end of the Civil War to the first years of the 20th century. An examination of people, events, and circumstances that shaped the growth and development of the town and the surrounding area. Now, in real words, if this were the trailer for a movie, a voiceover would be saying to you, "Come and learn the unvarnished history of Tallahassee." From the dark days of Reconstruction, when the population was about 1,900 people, to boom times, when the town was a roaring metropolis of 4,000 people. It's the story of political, social, and economic struggles by white and black residents, devastating fires and the efforts to rebuild, attempts to move the capital, attacks, regular attacks of railroad and hotel fever, the demise of plantations and the rise of the suburbs, the first public utilities, gas, water, electricity, flush toilets, and the fate of the St. Augustine Creek and the Cascade. I could go on, but you get the idea. Let me add that I'm big on audience participation and will suggest some projects that for anyone who's interested will provide a personal look at historic Tallahassee. The course will be taught Thursdays, 11:30 to 1:30 p.m. in the Conference Center at the John G. Riley House, which, given the subject matter, is the most appropriate venue. So, if you would like to learn all about the capital city of Florida in the Gilded Age, please join me. I hope to see some of you there, and thank you.
Hello. Well, I am Maureen McLeod. I am a PhD candidate at FSU in the Department of History, and I will be defending my dissertation in February in the middle of this class. And as academics have a weird sense of humor, so of course I'm going to teach a class on something I'm really interested in as my downtime while I'm getting ready to defend my dissertation. The class I'll be teaching is on Thursdays from 2 to 4. It's going to be in Temple, Israel, so it's a little bit different venue. And we'll be talking about Arab Spring and the legacy of decolonization. And the location, and the irony is not lost on me, of where we're going to be teaching at. This class, all of you I'm sure know what Arab Spring is, starting in 2011 in the spring when Arab countries began to revolt. People started to demand, make different demands on their governments, and many governments were overthrown. However, the story behind the beginning of it is something that's very rarely told. Specifically looking at the man in Tunisia who set himself on fire in protest of the treatment against him in December of 2010. And this is what totally began the movement of Arab Spring, and Egypt has really been at the center of it. We'll be sticking with mainly North African countries, looking at Algeria, Tunisia, Libya a little bit, and definitely Egypt. But we will be tying it to the decolonization efforts, mainly post-World War II, particularly when France and England left these countries to govern themselves, and mainly only in name. really governing themselves, with many different governments that stayed into power well into this revolt period of Arab Spring. This is a project that I'm really looking forward to working on. I'm actually conducting oral histories in Tunisia of people who lived through the experience, and interviewing them specifically about what people of different ages, what their experience was if they were alive or a child during decolonization, to what their experience was during Arab Spring, in addition to interviewing people who just only participated in Arab Spring. And I'm very fortunate to know a lot of young people who participated and have pictures the world has never seen, who have shared them with me. I'm going to have some video of people who participated in having them talk about what happened when they stormed the presidential palace and found the onslaught of 16 rare cars while the people are starving. And then they drove them through the streets of the city joyriding while the president, kind of hid in his own little room as they enjoyed that part. But it's going to be a very interesting class. I've taught here before 2 years ago. It took 2 years to get me back. Due to scheduling conflicts, I love teaching here, as many of my former students who still I'm in touch with will attest to. My class is very interactive. I encourage many questions, and trust me, you will have them, and you all think that you know one part about the history of Arab Spring and definitely have been paying attention to it in the news. But do come with an open mind, because it's going to be a story that maybe you haven't heard before. And I encourage you to tell me what you know, to have great class discussions, and we do have great class discussions, and I look forward to that. I'm very happy to be back at OLLI, and I really hope you join me for this class on Thursdays.
Hi there. My name is Marco Villa. I'm a classical guitarist here at Florida State University, and I'm teaching a class this semester on classical guitar appreciation. Now, I'd like to just explain to you what the classical guitar is. It's an instrument that develops in the classical period. It's a nylon string guitar, predecessor to the modern guitar, but it's always played with nylon strings, and it's always played with the fingers, plucked, not with a pick. And so you may be thinking, okay, well, what separates a classical guitarist from someone like, oh, I don't know, Willie Nelson? And the difference is the repertoire. As a classical guitarist, I play a repertoire that spans about 500 years, all the way back to the Renaissance. And I would like to share my knowledge of that repertoire with you in this course. It'll be kind of structured like a survey of classical music appreciation, but centered around the classical guitar. And I hope to see you all there.
Hello, I'm Charles Latour, doing the Italian wine class. They tell me they saved the best for last. That's me. I look at wine as a lifestyle, and the course will evolve around that. Discussions of wine, tasting wine. We'll do 2 to 3 wines for each class session, but it's a lifestyle. It's an accompaniment, an enhancement. Enjoying a glass of wine last night, having the football game, and having a dinner. It adds something extra to it. And so we're going to incorporate that throughout the class sessions and the discussions of wine, but also the wines that we taste. Again, we'll taste 2 to 3 wines during this session. We're focused on Italy. Italy is probably the most complex wine country in the world. It's estimated they have over 1,000 different varieties of grapes and clones in Italy. They make wine from the southern island of Sicily all the way up to the northern edges of Italy into the Alps. We're going to focus on the 3 major areas: Tuscany, where they make the Brunellos, and the Chianti, the Classicos, and the Super Tuscans. And then we're going to move up to Veneto, the Verona area between Verona and Venice, and this is where the Amarones come from, the Prosecco, Valpolicella, and those wines. Then we're going to go west to Piedmont and look at the Barolos. So the classes meets at the front porch, a restaurant on Thomasville Road. It's 1:30 to 3:30, so you got time to come for lunch and then enjoy the wine class. Thank you.